everyone, and welcome to a new episode of DannieBSpeaks, the podcast. I am Dannie B, aka Tide here. Now, this is a special episode. I mean, every episode is special, don't get me wrong, but this one is special. Just roll with me here. Just roll with me. Now, in this show, I am going to be revealing my top 50 MCs of all time list. And I'm doing this because last month, Billboard and Vibe Magazines tried it and failed the assignment terribly. I mean, terribly, they did. This topic will actually be broken up into two parts. So I'll be doing, this week's show will have MCs 50 through 26, and then I will reveal MCs 25 through 1 next week. So if you can't tell, I am a huge hip-hop head, been for years, okay? Now, I know that's a shocker to those of you who follow me, but I am. Now, of course, that's total sarcasm. But you also may be aware that this is hip-hop's 50th anniversary. Now, I celebrate hip-hop every day of every year, but 50 years is an amazing feat, and especially with a musical genre that was said to just be a fad and it will go away. I mean, how did that work out for y'all? I'm just saying. Hip-hop has been involved in numerous controversies over the years. I mean, when you have other musical genres that put out problematic music and have problematic artists, but for years, it's been like hip-hop is the worst thing ever, especially 90s hip-hop. And of course, that made me want to listen to it even more. More controversy. I was like, okay, what is this about? And when I was really into it, I was just like, how dare y'all? So anyway, well, that was one of the main reasons. Not the only reason, but one of the main reasons that really made me get into hip hop. But some years back, I did a post on my website, DannieBSpeaks.com, and it was titled When I Fell in Love with Hip Hop. Now, that was one of my favorite posts that I ever wrote because it just took me back to a time when I really did fall in love with hip hop. So go check that out on my website and check out the other posts and stuff that I've done on there as well. Now, another thing for those that follow me on social media, if you have noticed, every day since January 1st, I have posted some type of a tribute to hip hop. It's either been a song, an album that was very influential, a performance, picture, just something in tribute. And I usually try to make it the first thing that I post for the day. So that's been something that I have been doing since January 1st. Now, I felt the need to do this list because, as I mentioned, Billboard and Vibe, what was that you all put out? I mean, seriously. You know what? Let me get Billboard and Vibe together real quick. Give me a second. I have to do this. Now, once again, dear Billboard and Vibe, that list is not only offensive, but atrocious. And yes, I said atrocious. Now, that is a word that I have probably never used in my life, but that's truly how serious this is. So y'all took it upon yourselves to give a list of the top 50 MCs of all time. First of all, how dare you? How dare you even put some of these artists that you had with true great MCs? There were quite a few on the list that aren't even MCs. And MC, of course, is a master of ceremony. Just because you can rap, that doesn't mean that you're an MC. Just because you can rap, it doesn't mean that you're a lyricist. So let's get that out the way right now. So I get what people are going to say, well, the game is totally different now, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care about all that. I'm going to stand on my soapbox. This just confirms that many don't even know what an MC is. And I said this on the Girl You Know What podcast. I've said this plenty of times talking about hip hop, period. But when it comes to rapping, let me just say this. Rappers and MCs are not the same. Anyone can rap. You have old white ladies out here going viral for rapping, okay? I mean, it's no thing. But an MC, a true MC, not only just gets the crowd's attention, but they command the crowd's attention. And it's not a gimmick. They are doing this from their soul. They truly mean it. This is truly they take it seriously. They're not just taking 3 or 4 words and repeating it throughout a song. You think you're rapping. No, that's not even what that is about. It's not about being popular. Popularity is totally irrelevant. There are some MCs out here that a lot of people have never even heard of. Now, I don't expect any of them to make the list, and I'm not saying nobody has heard of them. They're not out there like a Jay-Z or, even like a Rick Ross or, they're not out there on Billboard or even Apple Music or Tidal, any of those, they're not, or I should say iTunes, they're not out there on their top list at all, unless you go into like independent artists or something like that. So that just shows you how deep it goes when it comes to talking about MCs. And before I jump down off my soapbox, it is very apparent that there was favoritism over there, probably some payola, that's how a lot of things go down, in the game. It does. You hate to say it, but that's how a lot of things go down. Y'all got people over there that apparently don't understand hip hop at all. And the sad thing is that you all have people over there that have been writing and have been in the game and been there for a long period of time. And I'm talking about been in the journalism game. How many people have been in the hip hop game though? That's the thing. Billboard and Vibe, why didn't y'all reach out to The Source or XXL or Hip Hop DX? These websites, these other publications, and there are tons of other ones out there. You could have even gone on Instagram, looked at a lot of these hip hop pages and got a better sense of it. Y'all were looking more for popularity, it looks like. Am I going to argue and say that y'all did get everything on the list wrong? No. Were there some people that should have placed higher or lower? Yeah. Were there some people that should have been on the list? Hell yeah. Were there some people that should not have been on that list? Hell yeah. I'm just saying. So that's what it is. That's just how things go when you put these together. There was also another list. Now, I don't know. I can't remember if it was the top 50 or top 30 or something like that. But Billboard, I don't know if they just did it themselves or they teamed up with another magazine. But they did like the top 30 or 50 or 20, whatever, singers of all time. And that's the one that I talked about in the podcast last week where Shaka Khan was pissed about the artists and was giving them the blues, the ones that placed ahead of her. So it's real serious out here. I'm not going to say my list is perfect. I'm not going to say my list is right. But what I am going to do is I am going to give you some MCs. And speaking of that, as I mentioned in the last podcast, this was hard. It really was. Putting this list together was not easy at all. Now, I do think that some of the MCs on the list could have been ranked higher or lower, and I'm talking about the list that I did, but I'm still not mad at it. You know what I mean? It's just like, it was hard, and especially just being one person that did it. I didn't reach out to anyone else. I was going to reach out to some friends and, get their input on who they think, but I was like, no, I want to do this on my own. I want to see how people perceive this list that I'm putting out there, and then for them to add and put their 2 cents in and, who they feel should have been or where this person should have been ranked or this person should not have been on the list or whatever. This is just my list. This is my opinion. Just like people over at Billboard and Vibe did theirs. But I don't think that they followed the rules of what it should have really been. Maybe their rules, but if you're going to go out there and you're going to put out, especially in a monumental year, you're going to put out this list of top 50 MCs and you have people who aren't MCs on there, you don't understand what an MC is, it's not going to be a legit list. I'm just saying. So, and as I mentioned, people aren't going to agree with my list. They're not going to. You may feel that there's some people that should not even belong on the list. That's fine. That's good. And I'm also going to be doing some honorable mentions as well, because there were some people who I do feel could have been on the list, and I did have them written down, but I was just like, I can't put them over this person. I can't put them up against them. I can't, it was just like, it was tough. It was tough. I'm not going to lie. I did have legitimate reasons why these artists didn't make the list. Some of them I kind of looked at like, and I'll get more into this when I talk about the honorable mentions, which will probably be next week. It may be the week after. I don't want this to go too long. That's why I'm breaking it up into 2 parts. So I've been rambling enough, but let's go on and get down to the get down. Let's go on, and I'm going to give you some rules and pretty much how I came up with the list. Okay, so here we go. I had a long list of criteria that I felt had to make them worthy of being one of the top 50 MCs. It was a long list. And from that list, I think I had about maybe 10, 12 things, that I just thought of off the top of my head. And then I was thinking of some other things, but I was like, that's not that serious. But what I did was some things were a little far-fetched to think of and wonder if this should really disqualify somebody or, I mean, it was a lot. I actually ended up narrowing it down to four. So these are the top four list of criteria that I believed were the most important. So the criteria for the list that I made goes as follows: they must have at least 10 years under their belt. And this is not saying that just because you may have been out 2 or 3 years and you may be taking the world by storm, but to be on a list with these people, to be one of the greatest of all time, I'm sorry, you got to have at least 10 years. I mean, I'm just saying. You know what I mean? And let's keep it real. There haven't been too many great ones that have made it, that are even qualified to make it in this list, who have been in the game for about the last 10, 15 years. So that part wasn't that hard. Even if they're in a group, that doesn't take away from the skills as an MC. So just because someone's in a group or a duo or whatever, it doesn't mean that everyone in the group is going to be on the list. That's number one. But it also doesn't mean that it should disqualify them because you rap along somebody else. Some people's favorite MCs, favorite lyricists are parts of groups. You know what I mean? Everyone's not a solo act. So there's that. Next, they must write their own rhymes. That's a big one. They can even write rhymes for others, but they still have to be an MC. Okay, there are a couple of people on this list for sure, maybe more than a couple, that have written rhymes for other people, but still they are considered great MCs as well. And and we can argue that point. We can argue that all day. There are some people on the list who somebody may be like, well, they didn't write all their rhymes. I didn't say all of their rhymes, because even some of the greatest singers had co-writers. The same thing happens in hip hop. You know what I mean? So you could have a co-writer. You could have someone who actually wrote a song for you just because it became a hit, but you have to had been able to write the majority of your rhymes, and it needs to be documented. So I actually went in and looked at documentation on some people who I didn't feel were writing their own stuff, but come to find out, it was documented that they did. I don't care if they put a "the" in the rap, and it counted them as a writer. It's documented that they wrote their own raps. There's that. And lastly, their impact and influence on hip hop culture. Now, it could just be culture, period. It could be, the era, anything like that, but they had to have had some type of impact and influence. I think that those are the top four, the top ones that I thought were most important and did help me really be able to condense the list and be able to get the top 50. And as I said before, my list, I really have problems with the order, because I do feel that some of these MCs could have been placed higher than I have them on the list. So without further ado, here is numbers 50 through 26. So here we go. 50, Left Eye. 49, Talib Kweli. 48, Rev Run. 47, Rick Ross. 46, Remy Ma. 45, Chuck D. 44, Roxanne Shante. 43, Too Short. 42, Lil Wayne. 41, Jalil from Houdini. Number 40, Fat Joe. 39, Mac Dre. 38, Papoose. 37, Q-Tip. 36, Big Boy. 35, 50 Cent. 34, Ghostface Killah. 33, Andre 3000. 32, Method Man. 31, Prodigy. 30, Scarface. 29, Lil Kim. 28, Queen Latifah. 27, Special Ed. And lastly for today, number 26, the late great Phife Dawg. So again, that was my 50 through 26 of my top 50 MCs of all time. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know if anybody I listed today, you shouldn't even heard their name for a couple reasons. One, possibly because they shouldn't have been on the list at all. Or two, they should have placed higher. So let me know. Let me know your feedback. Maybe I'll do a YouTube video or another podcast where I will explain why I placed these MCs where I did, or not even that, not even say why I placed them where I did, what number they fell, but why I put them on the list, because there is a reason. Like I said, I gave my top 4, but there's also other reasons as to why I felt that they should have made the top 50 MCs of all time. So that again is numbers 50 through 26. I'll come back next episode and reveal the top 25. So we'll be counting down 25 to 1. So thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Dannie B Speaks, the podcast. Now, I have some other lists that I'm working on. I will reveal those in future podcasts or even, possibly YouTube videos. Thanks again for listening. Be sure to check out my other solo podcast, True Crime with Dannie B Speaks, where, of course, I discuss one of my favorite things, which is true crime. I also have a third podcast, which is a collaboration with my good friend Keisha of Wellness and Women. It's called Girl You Know What, so make sure you check that out. You can follow that podcast at girl_you-know-what on IG. You can email us at girlyouKnowWhatPodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to all 3 podcasts on my website. Again, that's DannieBSpeaks.com. On Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Audible, Spotify, and of course, my YouTube page. Also on my YouTube page, you can enjoy nostalgic videos, reviews, music mashups, and other content. So be sure to subscribe to my YouTube page at DannieBSpeaks to get into all of that. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at DannieBSpeaks. If you have Apple Music and want to listen to some good old playlists, follow me on Apple Music where I share some of my playlists that I create myself. And I am under Tahir Ali on Apple Music. If you need to reach out to me for any business inquiries, such as promoting your business, products, etc., on my podcast, on my website, on my social media platforms, if you want to discuss collaborating with me, sponsoring me, being a guest on the show, please hit me up at DannieBSpeaks@gmail.com. As always, I appreciate you all. Be sure to continue to support or start supporting the Dannie B Speaks brand. It would be so greatly appreciated. It really will be. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Be safe out there, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace, y'all.